Part 28. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 271. Chapter 271 Confrontation at the Yamen. The expressions of the Dongjikane brothers changed. They wanted to say something, but when they met Xielianyuan's sharp eyes, they couldn't show it. At this point, they had no choice but to retreat. Dong Jiping gritted his teeth and bowed his head. What the common people said is what happened today. The Dong family has indeed lost the Yunzameng formula. Please take a closer look. Xielianyuan took a deep look at them and handed over the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. Write down the complaint and stamp it with your fingerprints. I will immediately lead someone to investigate. Dong Jikane hesitantly picked up the pen and kept thinking about the wording while writing the petition. Xielianyuan did not rush him and drank tea slowly, silently thinking about what to do next. When the Dong brothers finished writing the complaint and stamped it with their thumbprints, Xielianyuan asked people to put the things away. Just as he was about to get up and take the yamen out, he saw a group of people rushing into the yamen in a menacing manner. After seeing the person clearly, Xielianyuan knelt down directly and said, "I'm going to pay homage to King Rui and Xiaoao. I wonder what important matters the two princes have come to the government office today. This is not a good place for him." These two giant Buddhas came to the door with great force. Something big must have happened. Ouch, what kind of day is it today? How come they all came together? Xielianyuan doubts life while serving him with caution. The Dong brothers originally wanted to sneak away, but unexpectedly they saw Dong Changqing coming in with the two princes. At that moment, their steps were frozen and they could not move any further. Mr. Rui sat down angrily, pointed at Dong Changqing and yelled at Xielianyuan, "Go and call his parents over. I have something to ask." The faces of the Dong Jikane brothers changed drastically, and they quickly stepped forward to salute. Mr. Rui asked with a worried look on his face, "Who are you?" Dong Jikane braced himself and replied respectfully, "Dong Jikane of the Dong family of Cao Min, this is Dong Jiping, the younger brother of Cao Min. Your surname is Dong." Mr. Rui sneered and looked at Dong Changqing. "Are they the two who framed your parents and made your parents take the blame?" "You are wronged, Your Majesty." Dong Jikane brothers both knelt down and begged for mercy. Dong Changqing stared at the two people with a look of resentment, gritted his teeth and nodded, "It's just the two of them. But the person who threatens the young parents is the head of the Dong family." Xielianyuan still had an impression of the Dong family's case. At that time, he only felt that the Dong family was unkind. He did not expect that the victim could find such a big backer to come back and reverse the case. Since it was Lord Rui who spoke, how could Xielianyuan dare to neglect him? He immediately ordered someone to go to the dungeon to pick up the person. Soon Dong Changqing's parents, Dong Maoan and Pu, were brought up. Having not seen each other for half a year, the two of them seemed to have aged by more than 10 years, their faces were covered with dirt, and their bodies were thin. They had completely lost the appearance in Dong Changqing's memory. Dong Changqing saw their miserable appearance and couldn't help but burst into tears. "Mom and Dad." Dong Maoan and his wife looked over in disbelief when they heard the sound. "Son! Son!" Pu's gray eyes burst with life instantly, and even though his hands and feet were shackled, he still struggled to get close to Dong Changqing. Dong Maoan was only surprised for a moment when he saw Dong Jikane and Dong Jiping kneeling aside. He immediately panicked and stammered, "Changqing, why are you here at the yamen? This is not where you, a child, should come." Dong Maoan was very anxious, but he didn't dare to show it too obviously. He just kept looking at Dong Jikane with pleading eyes. It's not like old Prince Rui has never seen the suffering in the world. Seeing the misery of Dong Maoan and his wife, his face remained calm. He only asked, "Dong Maoan, I want to ask you, is the problem with the Bai family's batch of wine related to you? This king only gives you one chance. If you don't tell the truth, I will definitely punish you for the above crime. Dong Maoen's face turned pale and he looked helpless. When he saw his son standing next to Prince Rui, he felt that this matter had something to do with his son. He was anxious and angry, but he stopped talking. Dong Changqing was the first to lose his temper and complained with tears, "You signed and postponed the painting, and the head of the family said that you brought shame to the Dong family. My existence is a stain on the Dong family. In order to prevent the Dong family from being humiliated, the head of the family sold me." "What?" Dong Maoen was so angry that veins popped out on his forehead, and he glared at Dong Jikang and Dong Jiping angrily. "Didn't you promise me that you would treat my son well? This is how you treat him well." Dong Jikang was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. "We didn't sell him. He ran away unwillingly and was eventually trafficked by a gangster." "You're talking nonsense," Dong Changqing retorted loudly, holding his neck. Old Prince Rui sneered, "Wouldn't it be clear if Dong Changqing got lost on his own or if he was betrayed and sent someone to check? Xialian Yuan immediately sent someone to handle it." Dong Jikang immediately collapsed on the ground, his eyes were blank, and there were only two things in his mind: it's over. It had only been about half a year since Dong Changqing was sold. In addition, the situation was special, and the government officials only needed to visit to find out the truth. When Xialian Yuan learned the truth about Dong Changqing's betrayal, he was furious. "Come here. Go to Dong's house to arrest Dong Jihong." Dong Jikang was horrified, gritted his teeth, turned around and kowtowed to Dong Maoen and his wife, admitting his mistake. "I was angry because the fake heirloom master ordered the sale of Changqing. Everything was my idea and has nothing to do with the master. If you want to be held accountable, just go to the police. Come with me." Dong Maoen clenched his fists resentfully and said nothing. "MRSPU," cried heartbrokenly and kept shouting, "It was you who promised to take good care of Changqing, that we took the blame for you. It was you who promised. How could you be so shameless? How could you treat a child like this? He is a good citizen, not a sinner. Why should the Dong family sell him at will? The state of Qi does not allow the buying and selling of people. Some poor families who cannot survive will also sell their children. Biological parents are allowed to sell their young children because they cannot survive, but they cannot sell their adult children unless the children sell themselves. Dong Changqing's situation is not within the scope allowed by the law. If they are really investigated, the Dong family will be punished. The reason why they dare to be so unscrupulous is because they are sure that Dong Changqing can't stir up any trouble. They never expected that Dong Changqing could find Prince Rui. Such a great backer. Dong Jikang had nothing to say. He had kept his head down and remained silent since he admitted that he had taken the initiative to sell Dong Changqing. MRSPU was filled with anger and had no way to vent, so she told the story on the spot of how the head of the Dong family threatened the couple to confess. "Sir, the commoner woman and the child's father are just the most inconspicuous existences in the winery. There are so many people in the winery, man, we can't even touch the finished wine jar. How can we tamper with the wine? According to the rules of the Dong family, each batch of wine has to be tasted by a dedicated person before it is released. The batch of wine sent to Duke Angguo's mansion was still good in the winery. The problem only occurred after leaving the Dong family. Even if the two women had even Tongtian's ability, can't do it. Moreover, the person who threatens the two women is the eldest son of the family head, Dong Yao, the next head of the Dong family. The woman really doesn't understand what this matter has to do with Dong Yao. Why is he the one who takes the lead? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 272. Chapter 272, Beating a Woman. Dong Changqing clenched his hands tightly, his eyes filled with scarlet red. "Not long after you confessed your guilt, Dong Yao became engaged to the second lady of the Bai family. The marriage between the Dong family and the Bai family is not a secret. Everyone here knows it, but they can't make random guesses. MRSPU was startled, and suddenly laughed wildly. No wonder. No wonder Dong Yao is so eager to make us confess. I'm afraid this matter has something to do with the Bai family. They are all in cahoots with each other, and they are all the same. Dong Jikang's face turned green and white, and he yelled hurriedly, "Don't slander me. This matter was caused by my negligence and laziness. It was also my fear that made you take the blame. It has nothing to do with the head of the family, the Bai family." Dong Maoan shook his head. "Sir, what we can be sure of is that the wine was good when it was sent out to the Dong family. Dong Jikang and Dong Jiping usually only give instructions and never do it themselves. The problem of the wine should have nothing to do with them. Dong Jikang is most likely taking the blame for certain people for certain interests, just like they let the ordinary couple take the blame." Old Prince Rui didn't expect that this matter would become more and more widespread, so he laughed muffledly. "How interesting. The old man has lived for most of his life and has seen everyone earn money, but he has never seen anyone eager to admit guilt. Cielian, this case involves the Dingguo Palace, the Bai family, and the Dong family, and I must investigate it clearly." "I obey my orders," Cielian responded respectfully. Judging from his expression, he was not only not worried at all, but also slightly expectant. Mr. Rui was very satisfied with Cielian's reaction. He took a sip of tea and glanced at the Dong Jikang brothers. "I just vaguely heard that they came to complain. What's going on? It's really novel that evil people can still be bullied." Cielian hurriedly submitted the complaint to Mr. Rui for review. The two brothers Dong Jikang saw old Prince Rui's expression visibly gloomy. Their faces were as white as paper with fright, and cold sweat broke out on their backs. After reading the complaint, Mr. Rui handed the thing directly to King Xiaoao. "You should also take a look." King Xiaoao took over and was happy on the spot after reading it. "Master Xie, this time also involves Uncle Guang'an. You have to call Uncle Guang'an over for questioning. It just so happens that I also want to know about Uncle Guang'an. What's going on with the wine? We can't wrong any good person, but we can't let any bad person go, right? Listen to the tone of his voice, it is clear that he mostly takes pleasure in his misfortune." Dong Changqing couldn't understand King Xiaoao's attitude. "Your Majesty is absolutely right." Cielian summoned all the remaining yamen servants out of the yamen. The two brothers Dong Jikang looked at each other and felt that the sky was about to collapse. Why? They obviously just came to report the crime. Why did it become like this? If the Bai family is involved, even if the head of the family doesn't trouble them, the Bai family won't let them go. Just as the two brothers were anxiously thinking about countermeasures, Dong Jihong and Zhang Ning arrived at the yamen, followed by Dong Yao, Bai Jun, and people from the Dingguo Palace. From the Dingguo Palace came Shen Zhongguen and Shen Yuzong, and the Bai family, but they only sent A to deal with it. Mr. Rui laughed angrily at that moment. The Bai family is so powerful. Could it be that I, the king, should personally come to invite the head of the Bai family to come over? Bai Jun's expression suddenly changed, and he knelt down to apologize. "Your Majesty, I forgive you. It's not that my father and elder brother didn't come, but that something happened and I couldn't get away. I will send someone back to urge them. As soon as they come back, I will come over as soon as possible." In the cold weather, Bai Jun kept sweating coldly, and something seemed wrong at first glance. Old Prince Rui and Cielian exchanged glances, and immediately dragged King Xiaoao out. "You bring people to invite Master by yourself, even if you have to people to the old man. Bring more people." Cielian was very obedient and gave all the remaining people in his possessions to King Xiaoao. King Xiaoao just came over to watch a show. He didn't expect that he would have to do hard work, and he immediately became exhausted. Duke Dingguo stepped forward very obediently and said, "Your Majesty, I have also brought some people here. You can take them with you." King Xiaoao glared at him angrily and gritted his teeth. Does this king look so weak? Isn't it just a matter of inviting someone? That's what he said, but he was just talking nonsense. After leaving the yamen, he called all the guards waiting outside and asked them to take the lead. The Bai family's house is in the city, not far from Beiwei Tower, otherwise Mrs. Bai and her daughter would not be able to take only a few people out. When King Xiaoao arrived, he was stopped before he even entered the door. The servants of the Bai family knew his identity but refused to let him in, which was a problem at first sight. He instantly put away his careless attitude and charged in forcefully. "Stop!" Mrs. Bai came from the backyard with a team of people and glared at King Xiaoao angrily. "My lord, it is against the law to break into a private house. Even if you are the prince, you cannot be so arrogant and lawless. Now it's time to discuss the law with me. What I did today was not as arrogant as Mrs. Bai's visit to Beiwei Tower yesterday. Are you worthy of discussing the law with me?" King Xiaoao spat unceremoniously, no face given at all. Madame Bai's face turned red and white from embarrassment, but she couldn't do anything about Xiaoao Wang. Her brain became hot, and she sarcastically said, "Uncle Guang'an is just an old peasant woman, vulgar and frivolous in his behavior. You are so public and don't know how to behave, so it's no wonder that you have caught the eye of the prince, and you are so protected by the prince. You are really a good match." Just as Mrs. Bai was talking proudly, King Xiaoao stepped forward and kicked Mrs. Bai away. "Madam," the housekeeper was stunned with fright. King Xiaoao roared angrily, "Let me go in and search. If anything happens, I will take care of it." "No, you can't go in." "No." The housekeeper tried his best to stop him, but Qi Kong tied him up. Mrs. Bai was still lying on the ground and wailing loudly, which attracted all the people nearby to send people to inquire. The more people came, the harder Mrs. Bai cried. She wanted to tell everyone about King Xiaoao's bad behavior. "Look at what I look like now. Can the prince bully a weak woman like this? Woo." The housekeeper of the censor's mansion in the left capital shook his head repeatedly, the servants in the censor's mansion in the right capital left in a hurry, and the concierge of the prime minister's son's mansion couldn't wait to squeeze forward. King Xiaoao just ignored everyone's attention and even asked someone to bring a stool to sit and wait. After a while, the yamen rushed into the backyard of the Bai family and dragged out the disheveled head of the Bai family, Bai Zhendong, and the half-dead eldest son of the Bai family, Bai Yu. The official brought the person to King Xiaoao with an expression that was hard to describe. "Your Majesty, they are at home and have not left. So they deliberately deceived me and Uncle Wang." King Xiaoao glanced at Bai Zhendong and his son quietly, with a cold and indifferent look in his eyes. The official wanted to speak but stopped. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 273. Chapter 273. There is no most explosive, only more explosive. The corners of King Xiaoao's mouth were slightly raised, but there was a cold glint in his eyes. "Speak. Speak loudly. I will support you. What are you afraid of?" Looking at their disheveled clothes, could they be showing off their prostitution in the daytime? As soon as these words came out, all the women present blushed. Mrs. Bai gritted her teeth and got up from the ground, with 2 clusters of anger in her eyes. "Enough. Your Majesty, this is the Bai family, the natal family of Concubinda. You are so presumptuous. Do you take Concubinda in your eyes?" "Why should I take her seriously?" King Xiaoao said seriously. Mrs. Bai was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Seeing that more and more people were watching outside, the yamen officer replied bravely, "Master Bai is indeed promiscuous all day long, but it is not with his aunt and concubine, but with the eldest young lady of the Bai family." Ouch, a group of people all stared at each other with their eyes wide open. What did they just hear? Is it possible to tell such explosive news about the head of the Bai family and his daughter-in-law? Everyone immediately pricked up their ears and widened their eyes, waiting quietly for what was to come. After Ms. Bai was shocked, she instinctively screamed in denial, "Impossible! How could the owner of the house crawl into his daughter-in-law's bed with so many goblins in his backyard? It must be slander, say. Who told you to frame the Bai family and ruin the reputation of the Bai family like this?" The officer looked innocent. "Your Majesty, the younger one found Master Bai in the eldest wife's bedroom. The two of them were doing that kind of thing at the time. Not only the younger one, they all saw it too." The Yaman pointed at a group of brothers behind him. Among them were people from Prince Xiaoao's palace and some from Duke Dingguo's palace. Ms. Bai looked around and felt like the world was spinning. She wanted to faint on the spot. The head of the Bai family has been hiding his head and not daring to see anyone since he was found out. His reputation throughout his life has been completely ruined. King Xiaoao felt disgusted and didn't even want to look at Bai Zhendong. He frowned and glanced at Bai Yu. What about him? His wife has been slept with by her father, and there is no reaction at all. I saw that Bai Yu looked drunk, and he didn't know if he was having a dream, with a satisfied and lewd smile hanging from the corner of his mouth. The Yachai's face turned even more ugly, but he didn't try to cover it up for Bai Yu. He was smoking powder similar to wuxi powder in the study. The younger one has already had the powder put away. He needs to take it back to the doctor for examination to find out what it is. This thing looks like a banned drug at first glance. King Xiaoao's face was as dark as water, and he looked at the Bai family as if they were dead people. "Bai Yu. That's great. Don't the Bai family want to live?" Ms. Bai was so frightened that she shivered and knelt down. King Xiaoao looked angry and asked people to drag the Bai family and his son away. Those who were watching also hurried back to report the news. The housekeeper crawled up to Ms. Bai. "Madam, what should we do now?" Ms. Bai came to her senses and slapped the housekeeper hard. "Tell me. Did you already know about the eldest young master taking banned drugs?" Just now, she thought that the housekeeper was blocking those people recklessly to save the face of the Bai family. Now it seems that there is something wrong. The housekeeper must know about Bai Zhendong and Bai Yu, but hide it from her. The housekeeper knelt down in fear. "Madam, spare your life. There is nothing I can do about it. The master and the eldest young master have told me not to say anything. If I let you know, the head of the house and the eldest young master are asking about the little one. Madam, it is not important to hold the blame now. You need to think quickly, just find a way to deal with it. Severe cases of taking banned drugs will require beheading, and we don't know if it will affect concubinage in the palace. If concubinage is implicated by the Bai family, then the Bai family will really be doomed." Although Ms. Bai had no brains, she also knew that concubinage could not fall. She immediately handed the sign to the palace in a panic and took Bai Yuzhu into the palace for help. King Xiaoao had been there for a long time this time. It was so long that Mr. Rui could hardly sit still. He was about to send someone to inquire about the situation when he saw King Xiaoao coming in with a group of people. Looking at his expression, everyone couldn't help but think deeply. "What? Are you angry with the Bai family?" "It's useless." Mr. Rui made no secret of his disgust. King Xiaoao was already in a bad mood. He drank 2 sips of water and asked the Yaman to go over and reply. The officer told the public what happened to the Bai family. Zhang Ning's mouth instantly became an O shape, and a pair of clear eyes wandered back and forth between the Bai family and his son from time to time. King Xiaoao couldn't help but complain, "Don't you find it annoying to your eyes?" "I'm quite disgusted." Zhang Ning nodded seriously, changed the subject, and commented seriously, "But it's very exciting, even more exciting than singing." Bai Zhendong's old face turned dark immediately. Bai Yu's condition is a bit serious. He needs to be diagnosed and treated by a doctor, and then the ingredients of the banned drugs must be determined and reported to the palace. Xiaolianyuan could already foresee how angry the emperor would be, and his face became more solemn. At the signal of Mr. Rui, he cleared his throat and began to hear the unjust case of Dong Changqing's parents. This case was already full of doubts. If Dong Maoan and his wife had not taken the initiative to plead guilty, Xiaolianyuan would have been able to investigate again. Now that Dong Maoan and his wife have recanted their confession, the situation has immediately changed. Duke Shenjiang of Dingguo made his statement as soon as he heard about it. Your Majesty, I also felt that there was something wrong with this matter back then, but I suffered from the lack of evidence, and someone in the Dong family winery took the initiative to plead guilty. Even if I wanted to pursue it, I had no position. In addition, Dong the family and the Bai family paid heavy tributes to appease the guests, and no one cared about it. I wouldn't have kept chasing them. If I had known that they were being threatened to confess, I would definitely pursue them. Old Prince Rui waved his hands impatiently. Who doesn't know how to say nice things? He was not here to hear this. Shenjiang shut up when he heard the comment. Xiaolianyuan angrily scolded Dong Yao, can you plead guilty? Dong Jikane was so anxious that he almost cried. Sir, the common people admit their guilt. Everything is the common people's fault. It has nothing to do with Dong Yao or the Bai family. Shut up. Someone come and stop his mouth. Xiaolianyuan was provoked by Dong Jikane one after another, and he couldn't bear it. Dong Jiping wanted to say something, but when he saw Xiaolianyuan's fiery eyes, he winced and shut up. Dong Yao knelt on the ground, his posture upright, looking like a handsome young man. Sir, the grassroots people did come forward to persuade Dong Maoan and Pu to plead guilty, but the grassroots people also couldn't bear that their second uncle was arrested, so they made this move. Now that the matter has come to this, the grassroots people have no choice but to persuade them to plead guilty. You can tell me, please excuse me. Xiaolianyuan twitched the corner of his mouth, feeling that the anger in his chest could no longer be suppressed. He sneered mockingly, you are indeed filial. Do I still want to praise you? The common people dare not. Dong Yao was neither humble nor arrogant. Xiaolianyuan had a gloomy look on his face, glanced at him coldly, and spoke in a cold and serious voice, no matter what your intentions are, breaking the law is breaking the law. Come on, Dong Yao coerces good people to bear the crime, with a 20 stick, and he will be detained until he is punished. Sir, Dong Yao raised his head in disbelief. He thought that he admitted it so frankly, and that there was a reason for the incident. No matter what happened, Fuyan would handle it as appropriate. If he could find a relationship to deal with it afterwards, it would not be a big problem. Unexpectedly, Fuyan directly hit him 20 times. He is just a weak businessman, he is pampered, how can he bear it? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 274. Chapter 274 The Grievances of the Year. Xiaolianyuan looked upright, and Dong Yao instantly darkened his face. He subconsciously looked at Dong Jihong, and when he received Dong Jihong's eyes, he swallowed his begging for mercy. After a while, Dong Yao's shrill wails came from outside. Dong Jihong's fists under his sleeves gradually tightened, and the veins on his neck popped out, but he remained calm. 20 big boards were played at the back, and Dong Yao was already shouting until his voice became hoarse. The official came in to report. Xiaolianyuan waved his hand and clapped the gavel tree. Dong Maoan and Pu have nothing to do with the poisoned wine in Dingguo Palace. I declare that they are not guilty and will be released in court. When the conversation changed, Xiaolianyuan looked at Dong Jihong suddenly. Where is Dong Jihong? Dong Jihong stepped forward calmly, clasped his fists and bowed. The grassroots are here. Dong Jihong, as the head of the Dong family, you secretly trafficked Dong Changqing, a good citizen. Can you plead guilty, Xialianyuan, whose eyes widened, and his voice suddenly became sharp. Dong Jihong knelt down with a plop. Master Fuyin, you are wronged. Cao Men is the head of the Dong family, so he must be responsible for every clan member. Dong Changqing is not at fault. How could Cao Men treat a child like this? Someone must have framed Cao Min. Xialianyuan sneered and said unhurriedly, I have sent people to go to the bank to investigate, and I have also asked all the insiders. Now it is not just your quibbles that can confuse right and wrong. I would like to advise you to be lenient if you confess and be strict if you resist. The two princes are here today, as well as Duke Dingguo and Uncle Guang'en. There are so many people here. I don't want to embarrass you, but if you persist in your obsession, the only option is to use torture. Dong Jihong raised his head suddenly and bumped into Xialianyuan's sharp eyes. His heart sank inexplicably. Before he came, he thought it was about Yun Zimeng's secret recipe. He had been thinking about how to deal with it and how to pour dirty water on Uncle Guang'en. Go up and profit from it, never thinking about anything else. It was only when he arrived that he realized something was wrong, but there were so many people in the yamen at that time, and even if he had doubts, he couldn't express them. Moreover, Uncle Guang'en was also invited, and it was most likely related to the secret recipe, so he waited with peace of mind. As for Dong Maoan and his wife, to be honest, there are so many people in the clan, and he has never seen or recognized them at all, let alone knows what Dong Changqing looks like. Now Xialianyuan actually wants to avenge Dong Maoan's family, which is simply ridiculous. Thank you, sir. There is no need to accuse anyone of the Dong clan. Even the common people, there are people who violate the law. There are even some people below who do illegal things under the banner of the common people. The common people have no way of knowing about the matter until it is exposed. Since you discovered that Dong Changqing was maliciously sold, you should send someone to investigate carefully. It is certainly wrong for the grassroots to be lax in their imperial duties, but the grassroots definitely did not allow anyone to sell Dong Changqing, please be aware of this. Dong Jihong clutched his chest with grief and burst into tears, wishing he could die to prove his innocence. Xialianyuan said with an expressionless face, Dong Changqing, who dragged you away with a gangster in the first place? Dong Changqing stepped forward and pointed at Dong Jihong, it's his confidant, Dong's housekeeper Lao Su, and Lao Su's 4 minions. Dong Changqing reported the names of those people one by one. Dong Jihong slowly closed his eyes. Lao Su had been with him for more than 30 years and was his most trusted confidant. As well as the 4 thugs, he had worked hard to train them. He believed that Lao Su would not betray him, but it was hard to say about the 4 thugs. Xialianyuan did not give Dong Jihong time to plan, and immediately sent people to Dong's house to pick up the people. As a result, only the housekeeper Lao Su and 2 thugs were caught, and the other 2 were not there. Xialianyuan was angry and ordered the police to arrest the 2 men. Dong Jihong's hanging heart almost broke. If he remembered correctly, those 2 people should have been ordered to spread rumors about King Xiaoao and Uncle Guang'en. If they were caught, he was so frightened that his hair stood on end. Since there were still 2 people who had not yet been charged, Xialianyuan interrogated the others first. Lao Su confessed to his crime, while the other 2 hesitated and confessed under the coercion of Lao Su's eyes. Xialianyuan felt angry in his heart. He lowered his eyelids and said slowly, abducting and selling good people is a capital crime. I will never give you mercy. If you come, drag me down and I will kill you. The 2 minions were shocked, kowtowed, and begged, Sir, Lord, the little one is wronged. The little one is just following orders and has nothing to do with the villain. Oh? Whose orders are you listening to? Xialianyuan rubbed his chin leisurely. Although the 2 of them were afraid of death, they were not stupid enough to blame Dong Jihong directly. Instead, they put all the blame on the housekeeper Lao Su. Xialianyuan sneered, Even if you are not the principal culprit, you are also an accomplice. Moreover, you too know that Dong Changqing is a good citizen, and yet you dare to help the tyrants commit crimes. You will be punished with death and you will not be able to escape. I will sentence you to exile in the northwest and you will not be able to leave for life. The two of them looked ashen. Lao Su breathed a sigh of relief. Dong Jihong was still extremely nervous. Not long after, the Yamen escorted the other two people into the lobby. Sir, my subordinates caught Ma Sheng and Ma Jun in the tea house. These two people were spreading rumors around the tea house at the time. What rumors? Xie Lianyuan frowned subconsciously. Why are these things happening one after another, endlessly? The officer did not dare to hide anything and subconsciously looked at King Xiaoao and Zhongning. It's King Xiaoao and Uncle Guang'an. They said that King Xiaoao was fond of Uncle Guang'an and did many shameful things to please Uncle Guang'an. He also paid for Uncle Guang'an's restaurant expenses. Try your best to find the secret recipe for winemaking. The subordinates and others listened for a while before identifying themselves. The subordinates swore that these words were spoken by the two of them themselves. What? Xie Lianyuan was furious and slapped the alarm. This is nonsense. Horses are better than horse forces. King Xiaoao and Uncle Guang'an are all here. If you can't produce evidence today, I can have your heads thrown to the ground immediately. One is a prince and the other is an uncle. They are both powerful people. How can they be slandered by a little servant? Ma Sheng and Ma Jun were frightened to death. They didn't even need Xie Lianyuan's tricks. They both pointed at Dong Jihong. It's the master of the house. The master of the house ordered the younger one to do it. The master of the house asked the second and third masters to come to the Yamen to report the case and tell them about Yun Zimeng's secret recipe. If you lose it, let me spread rumors about King Xiaoao and Uncle Guang'an again. It's all about the owner of the house, it has nothing to do with the villain. Dong Jihong couldn't bear it anymore and shouted that he was wronged. Sir, Ma Sheng and Ma Jun have had second thoughts about the Dong family for a long time. Their words cannot be trusted. Their words can't be trusted. How can it be that what you say is trustworthy? Xie Lianyuan looked sarcastic, and immediately turned his gaze to Zhongning. His tone of voice was obviously much gentler. Uncle, the Dong family came to the Yamen to report the case today, saying that the Jia Yunzimeng's recipe has been lost for a while. He also mentioned that the taste of the little old man from Beiwolo was very similar to that of Yunzimeng, and he told me that it was his uncle who had the recipe for their wine. I wonder what your uncle thinks about this matter? Dong Jihong subconsciously looked at Zhongning and Xiaoao Wang and found that both of them were old and calm. The calmer the two of them became, the more panicked he became. He always felt that this matter was not as simple as he thought. He couldn't help but start to regret it. If he had known better, he would have sent someone to investigate more carefully. It was too impulsive. Zhongning stood up and nodded calmly. He is right, my wine uses the Dong family's recipe. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 275. Chapter 275. One case after another. Everyone gasped in unison and looked at Zhongning in shock. What is going on? Guang and Bo didn't ask for help? Don't you need to quibble anymore? Dong Jihong was even more shocked. He just lied to get the little old man's formula. How could it come true? Is it possible that there is really a traitor in the Dong family? No, that's not right. Yun Zimeng's secret recipe was hidden by him in a special way. Even if someone found it, they wouldn't be able to understand it. Even if they understood it, it would still be incomplete. The most important things were with him and no one could steal it. Xie Lianyuan thought he was hallucinating, and said dryly, Uncle, can you hear what I said clearly? Zhongning was amused in her heart, and the corners of her mouth raised slightly unconsciously. I know, sir, don't worry, the Dong family I am talking about is not the same concept as the Dong family of Yun's winery. Oh, is it possible that there is a second Dong family? Xiaolian was suddenly interested. Ding Qiagong and his son looked at each other and felt that Zhang Ning was talking nonsense. The Dong family was the only one famous for making wine in the capital. How could there be a second family? Zhang Ning walked slowly to Dong Jihong, squatted down, and said calmly, "Everyone knows that the people in Yun's mansion are good at making wine. The Dong family of Yun's winery comes from Yun's mansion, but who stipulates that the surname of Yun's mansion is Dong? Is this the only one that knows how to make wine? The reason why there is only one Dong family in Yun's prefecture that is famous for making wine is not because of their excellent wine-making skills, but because they spare no effort to suppress others. As long as there are some outstanding families, Dong will never let them become powerful." Looking at the age of the head of the Dong family, he must have not forgotten Dong Feng. If you can't remember, I can remind you that he was an old man, known as Lao Wengtu, Dong Lao Wengtu, who sold wine in the same county as your family. Back then, he brewed a wine that tasted very similar to Yun's Ameng, but ended up being framed by your father's people who bribed the government, and finally died in depression, you know. Dong Jihong's memory gate was opened instantly, and those long-lasting memories came like a flood. His face instantly turned pale as paper, his pupils suddenly dilated, and his eyeballs were trembling. You. Zhang Ning admired Dong Jihong's expression of seeing a ghost. "You want to ask me how I know these things, right? Back then, your family suppressed Dongfeng until he was unable to stand up, and Dongfeng's descendants were forced to give up brewing. Give it up, but you may not have thought that a pearl is still a pearl even if it is covered in dust. Dongfeng's descendants are talented, even if they can't make wine, they can still take other paths. Unfortunately, Dongfeng's grandson Dongzi is now the master of Xiayuchen, the magistrate of Ping'an County. I wanted to make wine, so Dongzi asked his father and uncle to do their best to help me. It was also them who gave me Dongfeng's lifelong experience in winemaking. How about that? Do you feel surprised and pleasantly surprised? How dare they?" Dong Jihong was dumbfounded. He never thought that the little old man's formula would come like this. He thought that those people had been suppressed long ago and had no power to resist. He didn't expect that after so many years, they still haven't given up. How willing to give up the recipe of wine to others. Everyone saw clearly what they still didn't understand about Dong Jihong's reaction. Old Prince Rui was furious. "Okay. I didn't expect the Dong family to be so prosperous. First Kuzhu Prefecture and then Yun's Prefecture, the court has raised a lot of moths over the years. Genyang, go to the palace immediately and report this matter to the emperor. The officialdom of Yun's mansion must be thoroughly investigated. I want to see how much mud can be brought out by pulling out the radish. He has been wandering outside for many years and has seen many people's sufferings, and he can't even hear about these common people's affairs." King Xiaoao knew that Mr. Rui had trouble in his eyes, but he didn't expect that at his age he was still so hot-tempered and would get angry at every turn. He didn't dare to delay at that moment and ran away. Dong Jihong's body went limp and he sat slumped on the ground like mud. It's over. All is lost. A flash of disgust and contempt flashed in Xie Lianyuan's eyes. He patted the wooden door and ordered the officer, "Go and check where Ma Sheng and Ma Jun have been today and who they have met. I want to see who is lying." Dong Jiping crawled to Dong Jihong's side and looked around in fear. Big brother, big brother. What should I do? What should I do?" Dong Jihong was like a puddle of mud, which shook and fell straight down. Bai Zhendong stared at all this in front of him. He really couldn't figure out what went wrong. Everything was fine, but suddenly the admin came to the house and dragged him off his daughter-in-law's bed so forcefully. Now he saw it with his own eyes. Seeing that the Dong family was beaten so hard that they couldn't stand up, they were frightened and shouted repeatedly, "Thank you, sir, all this has nothing to do with our Bai family." Xie Lianyuan patted the gavel tree solemnly. "Quiet. Bai Zhendong, the matter of poisoned wine in Duke Dingguo's mansion has not yet been investigated. In addition, the person involved retracted his confession. I must conduct a thorough investigation and give everyone an explanation. Dong Maoan and Mr. Pu made it clear long ago that the wine was still in good condition when it was in the Dong family, but the problem occurred after it was shipped out of the winery. If I remember correctly, the batch of wine was shipped to the Bai family first, and then from the Bai family. The family was transported to Dingguo Gongfu. At that time, I led people to search the Dingguo Palace, and the people who were questioned were all the people in the Dingguo Palace. It was not until everyone in the Dingguo Palace was cleared of suspicion that the focus was on the Dong family. If the Dong family can't find out the problem, the next step to investigate is the Bai family. But at this time, the Dong family coerced Dong Maoan and his wife to confess, and Dong Yao got engaged to Miss Bai as quickly as possible. Bai Zhendong, with the current status of the Bai family, actually married his legitimate daughter into the Bai family. This is wrong, very wrong. If you don't tell me, I will have no choice but to investigate it myself. Bai Zhendong was anxious. Thank you, sir. It's been so long since that happened, and our Bai family and Dong family have given all the compensation they should have. They didn't have any dissatisfaction, and no one pursued it again. Why do you keep holding on to it, put? Xielianyuan was furious. Bai Zhendong. The two victims, Dong Maoan and Pu, are still there. Did they say they won't pursue the case? Ding Qiagong is also here. Did he say he wouldn't pursue it? When Shenjiang heard that Meng was unexpectedly called, he didn't know how to react for a moment. To be honest, he didn't want to offend the Bai family. After all, there was a concubine behind the Bai family, and he didn't know who would become the heir apparent in the future. Offending the Bai family is very likely to offend the future prince. Just as he was about to make peace, the eldest son beside him, Shen Yuzong, spoke first. Your Excellency, it is true. This incident caused rumors to Duke Dingguo for a period of time. Although those guests who received compensation did not say it with their mouths, they felt sorry for Dingguo in their hearts. The government does not have any objections. If this matter could be thoroughly investigated and the real murderer behind the scenes could be caught and everyone could be given an explanation, the victims would surely be willing, and more importantly, the Duke Ding's government would be cleared. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Dong Maoan and his wife are scapegoats. Many people even suspect that the Dingguo government put pressure on the Dong family to do this. They obviously did nothing, but in the end everything was put on their heads. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 276. Chapter 276. A sudden turn of events. Shen Zhongguan was stunned for a moment. From the corner of his eye, he saw Prince Rui's expression. He slowly closed his eyes and opened them again. His previous hesitation was no longer there. My lord, I really want the truth. At this point, we can only take one step at a time. Regardless, they, Duke Dingguo, are the victims. Even if they find out that the murderer behind the scenes is a member of the Bai family, it has nothing to do with them. Is it possible that the future prince will still be able to deal with Duke Dingguo for protecting his shortcomings? Mansion. After weighing the pros and cons, Shenjiang felt relieved. Bai Zhendong was completely panicked, and he kept thinking about whether the insiders had dealt with it thoroughly and whether any fish had slipped through the net. Just when Xielianyuan was about to give the order, a group of people came outside. Wait. Everyone looked at it together. They were all shocked when they saw that the person who came was actually the old lady from Duke Dingguo's mansion. Shenjiang was shocked when he heard this and hurried over to help him. Mother, why are you here? Mrs. Shen did not respond to her son. Instead, she stepped forward with a cane and nodded to Prince Rui in a neither humble nor arrogant manner. Prince Rui, I haven't seen you for many years. How are you? Old Prince Rui didn't show much expression when he saw old Mrs. Shen. He only nodded slightly and frowned. Didn't you say that you are not in good health? Why are you still going out? Mrs. Shen sighed and shook her head. So what if I'm sick? There's always something to worry about. Prince Rui, can you give me some face? Don't pursue this matter any further. As for Dong Maoan and his wife, we'll give it to you if they are satisfied with the compensation, the matter will be over. Mr. Rui smiled sarcastically. I thought you came out just now. You are here to be a lobbyist. What if I don't agree? Mrs. Shen was a little anxious. She coughed a few times and sat next to Mr. Rui. For the sake of us brothers and sisters, and for the sake of my dying, isn't it okay? What are you afraid of? Old Prince Rui was angry and pointed at old Mrs. Shen angrily. He said, you were weak and had no opinion in the past. You wanted to calm down everything. Now that others are bullying you, you still want to calm down. Duke Dingguo, after all, started his career through martial arts and has his own backbone. Do you think Zhang Wen's father would allow you to do this if he were alive? I didn't. Mrs. Shen's eyes flickered. Although she felt guilty, her mouth was very tough. Mr. Rui rolled his sleeves and snorted coldly. Anyway, stop talking. I can't agree to it. Even if I bring this matter to the Emperor today, I still want to know it clearly. You really don't know what to say. Mrs. Shen was so angry that she almost vomited blood. The hope that had just been ignited in Bai Zhendong's eyes was instantly extinguished. With no obstacles in sight, Xie Lianyuan immediately ordered people to go to the Bai family to bring back all the people involved in the incident for investigation. As soon as the officer arrived at Bai's house, he heard bursts of shrill shouting coming from the backyard. The housekeeper was smart this time and did not stop the person. Instead, he thought of rushing ahead of the Yamen officer to stop him. Unexpectedly, he was still a step too late. The Yamen rushed into the main courtyard and witnessed with their own eyes that Mrs. Bai tortured her daughter-in-law Yashi. Yashi was beaten until her skin and flesh were torn, and it was too miserable to look at. Stop, do you have any more rules? Mrs. Bai glanced at the housekeeper displeasedly, but she didn't feel guilty at all. It's my wife's turn to teach my daughter-in-law who doesn't behave well, and it's the turn of outsiders to make irresponsible remarks. To tell you the truth, a shameless woman like this, even if I'm Mrs. the Yu family didn't dare to say anything after sinking her into the pond. The world is like this. Yashi and her father-in-law had an affair, and they even let people catch her in bed. There was only one fate waiting for her. Although the officials looked down on women like Yashi, they were not so cruel as to add insult to injury. However, they really couldn't control her anymore, so they made their intention known. Madame Bai calmly covered her mouth and chuckled, I'm sorry, it's been so long, and we don't know how many servants have changed in our family. Who still remembers who there were back then? Why don't you put the family in the house? Everyone has been asked to go to the Yamen to ask, maybe someone else knows about it. Ha ha ha. Mrs. Bai smiled with a bit of pride and presumptuousness, which made all the Yamen servants seethe with anger, but they really didn't do anything else. Method. At this moment, Yashi, who was beaten to death, suddenly spoke, I know the inside story. Take me to the Yamen and I will tell you everything. Mrs. Bai suddenly changed her face. How dare you? Come here, drag this down. She is a sinner of the Bai family, you can't take her away. Seeing Mrs. Bai's reaction, the officer immediately reacted. Before Mrs. Bai could react, the three of them directly picked up Yashi and ran away, leaving the others behind. Mrs. Bai was frightened, angry, and uncontrollably afraid. She kicked the housekeeper in a panic, What are you doing standing still? Why don't you send someone to stop them quickly? You must not be allowed to go to the yamen, quickly. The housekeeper reacted and quickly sent out all the guards in the house. The yamen official could not run fast while carrying the man, and was soon stopped by the guards of Beifu near Bayway Tower. In order to prevent Yashi from going to the yamen, the guards of the White House shouted in public that Yashi was stealing people, which aroused public outrage. Yachai could not defeat the four-handed man with his two fists, and he could not attack the people, so he could only be beaten passively. Luya rushed out after receiving the news. She knew about Zhang Ning's visit to the yamen today, and she didn't like the Bai family. Seeing that the Bai family's guards were embarrassing the yamen and inciting the people, she immediately rushed back and took out the gong and banged it to attract the attention of the people. Today, Baywalo is giving away 500 fried meat buns for free, first come, first served, no rush. As soon as she finished shouting, everyone on the street rushed to Bayway Tower, and no one was chasing Yashi anymore. Yang Data rushed over with a few newly purchased servants to help stop the Bai family's guards and clear the way for the yamen. All the officials almost cried with gratitude. When they took Yashi back to the yamen, all of them had rotten vegetable leaves covering their heads instead of hanging on their faces. They were in a very miserable state. Everyone was frightened by their appearance. Xielianyuan was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. What's going on? Who dares to attack the yamen? The officer wiped his face, put down the dying Yashi, and briefly explained the situation. Xielianyuan hurriedly asked the doctor to come over and examine Yashi. He also looked at the injuries of several government officials. Bai Zhendong glared at Yashi with a gloomy expression. Don't you want to live anymore? Yashi raised his head suddenly, his eyes full of hatred. If they hadn't arrived in time today, I would have been beaten to death by that old woman. Is it your turn to threaten me? Bai Zhendong. You feel your conscience. Did I take the initiative to seduce you or did you force me? Before I entered your Bai family, I was a good girl who abided by female virtues and precepts. It was your inhumane son and you, an old man who was worse than a beast, who ruined me. Now I was almost killed by your stepsister, who should I ask to reason with? That's enough. Let's talk about this when we go back. Bai Zhendong's eyes were threatening. Yashi suddenly laughed maniacally. Go back. Go back to where? The Bai family. And then I will be killed by you quietly? Or will I just let you sink into the pond? Do you think I am that stupid? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fensti. Chapter 277. Chapter 277 Getting Deeper and Deeper. I promise, don't talk nonsense, I will definitely protect you. Bai Zhendong promised Yashi again. Yashi laughed and burst into tears. You promised me the same thing when we were on the bed. You also said that as long as I am pregnant with your child, I will be the eldest grandson of the Bai family, and everything in the Bai family will belong to my son in the future. As a result, I haven't had a son and a half for so many years, and I have to be tortured by that evil woman every day. After checking again and again, I found out that you can't have children at all, but you allow me to be the eldest grandson of the Bai family. Ha ha ha. Bai Zhendong. I won't believe you anymore. Speaking, Yashi suddenly turned around to look at Xielianyuan, knelt down and said loudly, Sir, I know who did it about the poisoned wine in Duke Dingguo's mansion. You can't say it. You can't say it. Bai Zhendong rushed over like crazy and covered Yashi's mouth. His look of wanting to eat someone really startled Yashi. At that moment, Yashi stopped delaying and said hurriedly, It's the sixth prince, it's the sixth prince who did it. Hiss, everyone present broke out in a cold sweat. Mrs. Shen slowly lowered her eyes, and she felt a bit more aura of dusk. Xielianyuan only felt that it was difficult. He originally thought that Mrs. Shen's intervention would be a big deal, but he didn't expect that the prince would be involved. This matter was no longer within his control. However, in order to understand the whole story, Xiaolian still had to bite the bullet and continue to interrogate you. How did you know? You glanced at Bai Zhendong with relief and lowered his eyes. Bai Zhendong told me personally that on the day the batch of wine was delivered to the Bai family, the sixth prince happened to come to Bai Yu, and the two of them stayed in the study for a long time. Later, Bai Yu personally took the sixth prince to see the wine. After something happened to Duke Dingguo, Mr. Xie investigated and ruled out the suspicion of Duke Dingguo. Bai Zhendong was very uneasy and investigated personally. Bai Yu failed to resist the interrogation of his own father and took the matter to trial. The sixth prince did this to avenge old Mrs. Shen for humiliating him at the palace banquet last year. Mrs. Shen looked confused. When did I lose the respect of the sixth prince? The reason why she came to help today was because concubine in the palace sent her cronies to ask for help. She respected her aunt, spoke sincerely, and avoided the important. She did not want to offend concubine because of her own affairs, so she came forward to make peace with her. Unexpectedly, how could she accept that the cause of this incident turned out to be her? Shen Zhongguan was worried that his mother was too excited, so he quickly held her shoulders. Yushi shook her head. I don't know much about my identity. After all, I can't enter the palace because of my identity. I need to ask the people at the palace banquet to find out. Mrs. Shen was very uneasy. Lord Rui was burning with anger in his eyes, and he took his best to shoot the case. You. All of them follow the king's palace. Today's things, the king wants to listen to the emperor one by one, and he will make decisions. Mrs. Shen covered her head, looking shaky. Old Prince Rui became even more angry when he saw this. Let you be brave. Go back quickly, and I will seek justice for you. Mrs. Shen had tears in her eyes and shook her head stubbornly. No, since this matter is related to me, I must know the reason. It will be difficult to sleep and eat when I go back, so why not go to the palace? Xiaolian was worried that something would happen, so he quickly asked the yamen to go down and prepare. When he walked out of the yamen, he looked up at the gloomy sky, which was as depressing as his mood. Everyone who should know that old Prince Rui has created such a big battle knows that it is neither morning time nor anything urgent, but a group of officials are waiting outside the palace gate. Seeing old Prince Rui and his entourage, they quickly stepped forward to salute and then went to the Xianzheng Hall. At this time, King Xiaoao had just finished reporting the affairs of the Dong family to the emperor. Before he could take a breath, he heard the arrival of Prince Rui. He suddenly looked sad and said, "Brother, what do you think is wrong with my uncle?" The emperor was furious. He was suffering from a moderate fever and hadn't decided who to send to investigate Yun's mansion. But someone came here again. Even he felt a pain in his head and had to let someone in again. Well, I thought it was only Prince Rui and his people, but it turned out that most of his ministers also came. What kind of trouble is this? The emperor was puzzled, but his mood was extremely bad. Old Prince Rui didn't talk nonsense, and immediately told him about the poisoned wine in Duke Dingguo's mansion. Mrs. Shen cried sadly, and the emperor and King Xiaoao suddenly had a bad premonition. Before the two of them could calm down, Prince Rui asked you to step forward and tell the story about the sixth prince. Wang Xiaoao's legs shook unconsciously and he stepped back. The next second, the furious emperor threw the cup and shouted, "Dekang! Bring me the sixth prince and concubine Dekang." Zhang Ning thought of the concubine who targeted her that day, and was very curious about what the sixth prince Xiao Chongjing looked like. When she saw the person coming, she was immediately disappointed. The person in front of her did not have the elegance of the emperor, nor the good looks of concubine Dada. He looked more like the Bai family, but not as good looking as Bai Yu and Bai Jun. He was ordinary. And a bit hunchbacked, the kind that you wouldn't find in a crowd. Moreover, this man had a dark look in his eyes. He seemed to be timid, but he only looked after the emperor. Others seemed to be ignored by him. He was arrogant and narrow-minded. He was not a good person. Jiang Ning only looked at him for a few times before subconsciously frowning, and she didn't know why. She always felt that Xiao Kongjing's hunchback was strange. He was obviously the proud son of heaven, and his status was more noble than Prince Xiaoao, but he didn't have Xiao Kongyun's noble temperament at all. What are you thinking about? Why couldn't she remember it for a while? Because she was in confusion, Jiang Ning seemed a little absent-minded. Fortunately, the emperor didn't notice her at this time. He only glared at the sixth prince angrily. Can you explain to me why you tampered with the wine in Duke Dingguo's mansion? The sixth prince has not said anything yet. Concubine cried out her injustice first. Your Majesty, the sixth prince just went to the Bai mansion as a guest. How could he deliberately put drugs in the wine? What was he trying to do? Someone must have deliberately framed him. I beg the emperor to see clearly. That's enough, concubine. I'm asking about the sixth prince, not you. Shut up before I let you speak, the emperor yelled angrily, his chest heaving violently showing his anger. Concubine has been in the palace for so many years, but she has never seen the emperor get so angry in front of her. She was so frightened that her heart trembled, and she obediently shut her mouth and said nothing. The emperor gouged out her eyes and once again focused his sharp gaze on the sixth prince. Father, sons, and ministers. The sixth prince lowered his head and kept rolling his eyes. What happened today was too sudden. He had no idea how much evidence the people present had, how much inside information they knew, and what they wanted him to do. Answer. After all, he was his biological son. Looking at him like that, the emperor knew that what you said was true, and he slowly closed his eyes in disappointment. King Xiaoao hurriedly stepped forward to give him a hand. Brother Emperor, calm down and take care of the dragon's body. Lao Lu. Why don't you explain quickly? Do you have to wait for your father to go to war before you are satisfied? He kept giving signals to the sixth prince, and he didn't know if that idiot could understand. The sixth prince struggled for a while and spoke in a weak voice, My son, I have been wronged. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 278. Chapter 278 Taking Banned Drugs. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Ning seemed to hear the sound of a pin dropping. The emperor didn't make a sound, but it felt like the calm before the storm. Her heart was inexplicably clenched, and she didn't even dare to breathe hard. After a few breaths, a loud noise broke out in the Xianzheng hall. The emperor threw his own teacup at the sixth prince, beating him to a head. Concubine was so stunned by the bright red that she lost her mind. She knelt and crawled forward like crazy. Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Those are your own flesh and blood. Even if the sixth prince did something wrong, you couldn't beat him like this. He is still a child and has been pampered since he was a child. How can he bear it? Weevu. The angry emperor kicked concubine over. You still said. It's because of you, the sixth child, that a loving mother is a loser. I haven't even asked you to settle the score, but you are already feeling distressed. Concubine was crying in pain. She had long lost the exquisiteness she had when Jiang Ning saw her for the first time, and was left with only embarrassment and embarrassment. However, she couldn't care less and continued to throw herself at the emperor's feet, crying loudly, Your Majesty, you have forgotten how happy were you when the sixth prince was born? You are such a little child, and it will be quiet only when you hold it. You said that this child likes his father, and you will definitely love him and teach him well. He was babbling, and the first word he shouted was Father, Your Majesty, this child only cares about you. Even if there is something wrong with him, it must be excusable. Please be aware of it. It's okay that concubine didn't mention it. The more she talked about it, the more angrily the emperor became. you mean that I taught you such a thing after teaching with all your heart? Concubine was startled, so confused that she even forgot to cry. The emperor sneered twice and walked slowly to the sixth prince. Raise your head and look into my eyes. The sixth prince obeyed and raised his head. He just met the emperor's eyes and swallowed with guilt. He subconsciously glanced at concubine and then at the Bai family. In short, those eyes were so erratic that he did not dare to stay with the emperor for a long time. Looking at each other. Let alone the emperor, even an outsider like Zhang Ning couldn't help but shake his head. The emperor became more and more angry and kicked the sixth prince over. If you don't tell the truth, I don't mind demoting you to a commoner, so that you will never be able to set foot in the capital for the rest of your life. Boom, concubine's mind exploded. She looked at the emperor in disbelief and shouted miserably, Your Majesty, please forgive me. The sixth prince was so frightened that he trembled all over and his eyes went straight. My son, I know I was wrong. Where did you go wrong? Veins popped up on the emperor's neck, and spittle flew everywhere. The sixth prince became even more panicked. Son, I should not let people put things in the wine to harm others. Concubine closed her eyes in despair and her whole body went limp. When Bai Zhendong heard this, he was as paralyzed as a deflated ball. The emperor was extremely disappointed. I only ask you now, why did you do this? Why did you target the old lady? The sixth prince looked at concubine again, hesitating. Seeing that the emperor changed his face again, he became afraid and cried. Concubine mother said that Mrs. Shen praised the first emperor brother, the second emperor brother, the fifth emperor brother, and the eighth emperor at the palace banquet. Brother, I missed Urchin. He clearly looked down on Urchin, and even said that the old lady gave him eye drops on purpose. The son was angry and happened to see the Dong family delivering wine to the Bai family, so he ordered someone to pour something into the wine. What did you ask people to add? The emperor's eyes were red with anger and his eyebrows stood up. The medicine administered determines the seriousness of the matter. If it is just a small amount of croton, it can be classified as a prank, and it is not too serious, so he can take it lightly. If it is poison that can kill people, the situation is different. He has to give it. Duke Dingguo made an explanation with the victim. The sixth prince shrank for a moment and did not dare to continue speaking. The emperor's heart instantly sank to the bottom. He was obviously furious, but he felt an inexplicable coldness slowly rising from the bottom of his heart. He didn't say anything, so the emperor looked at Xiaolianyuan. You were responsible for this case at the beginning, but do you know what kind of poison those people were poisoned with? Xiaolianyuan looked ashamed. Weikan asked the imperial doctor to have a look at it, but the imperial doctor could not find out the reason. He only said that it was not poison, but everyone who drank alcohol had vomiting and diarrhea, and the symptoms were the same. There are poisons in this world that even his imperial doctor cannot identify. Where did Lao Lu get it? If he uses this medicine against him in the future. The emperor felt cold all over. He couldn't believe that his eldest son could do such a thing. Since you don't say anything, I'll have people search it. I want to see what surprises I can find in your territory. As soon as the emperor gave the order, the commander of the Royal Forest Army immediately led the people down. Concubine became even more desperate and fell to the ground in tears. After the Yulin army left, the emperor was not idle. He asked Zhang Ning to explain the Dong family's affairs carefully, especially the Dongfeng case. After many years, some of the subordinate officials who served in Yun's mansion must have passed away. Even if they are still alive, they will be in official positions. Yes, it is not easy to pursue the case, but it is not impossible. Zhang Ning did not dare to say anything in front of the furious emperor. She almost answered whatever the emperor asked. Before the two of them could talk for 2/4 of an hour, the imperial guards came back. Zhang Ning stepped back wisely. The emperor saw what the imperial guard was holding at a glance. What is it? Wei Guangxian, the commander of the Royal Forest Army, hurriedly presented the thing, frowned, and said, "Your Majesty, I suspect that this thing does not belong to Qi state. I guess I have to wait for the imperial doctor to identify what it is." The emperor had no choice but to ask all the doctors from the imperial hospital to come over. As a result, a group of people gathered around and discussed for a long time without coming to a conclusion. The emperor looked at the sixth prince with increasingly cold eyes. "I give you two choices. 1. Explain what this thing is, where it comes from, and what it does. 2. I will kill you now." As soon as he finished speaking, the emperor suddenly pulled out the dragon sword, and the sharp sword flashed with a dazzling cold light. Zhang Ning was so scared that she subconsciously covered her mouth. Concubine was about to faint. She looked at the sixth prince pleadingly, "Speak quickly. What on earth is that?" The sixth prince was frightened and cried loudly, "I don't know anything. That thing was given to me by Baiyu, and it was also used by Baiyu to teach me." "What?" Concubine was dumbfounded and confused. The emperor roared angrily, "Bring Baiyu up to me." "Your Majesty," Xialianyuan, with cold sweat on his forehead, stepped forward and replied, "When Baiyu was caught by the yamen, he was suspected of taking poison similar to wuxi powder, and I didn't have time to hand it over to the imperial doctor for review." "Then what are you waiting for? Bring it here and let the imperial doctor examine it now." The emperor's eyes were spitting fire, as if he was ready to eat people at any time. Concubine's face turned pale with fright. She first begged for her son because she wanted him to avoid punishment. She begged again because she didn't want her son to be demoted to a commoner. Now she wants to beg again because she hopes the emperor can spare the life of the sixth prince. But what could she plead for? The incident started because of her mother's family, so the emperor probably had his heart set on destroying the Bai family. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 279. Chapter 279 The Wrath of the Emperor. She had never been as hopeless and helpless as she was now. Who can help her now? She looked around blankly. Needless to say, Prince Xiaoao and Prince Rui, the two of them didn't like Laolu and the Bai family, but now they just don't know how to be proud of them. The sixth son of Duke Dingguo has completely offended people to death. For future plans, the people in Duke Ding's palace will never help to plead for mercy. The only one left is Uncle Guang'en, whom she despises the most. Yes. The emperor praised this woman so much that she was jealous. She used to look down on this woman, but now she had to ask her for help. The concubine's heart was bleeding. Zhang Ning met her calculating eyes and felt inexplicably panicked, so he quickly and quietly stepped back. At this moment, the group of imperial doctors from the side hall entered the Xianzheng hall together. The leader reported, "Your Majesty, I have carefully identified it. The medicinal powder in the hands of the sixth prince is exactly the same as the powder Baiyu smoked. It's just that I have never seen this kind of medicine, so I still need to identify it carefully." Yushi, who was kneeling on the ground, said hoarsely, "Your Majesty, the common woman knows where this medicine comes from. It was bought by Baiyu from a businessman in the western regions when he was doing business outside the customs. Those who take this medicine will become addicted and feel like drunk. In Baiyu's words, they feel like they are in a state of ecstasy. They can become immortals, which is wonderful. He is extremely precious and takes it at a fixed time every day. No one is allowed to touch it on weekdays. I didn't expect that he would give this thing to the sixth prince." The emperor's face was ashen, his pursed lips were like a stiff straight line, and his fiery eyes were flashing with cold light. Even if he didn't curse hysterically, it could be seen that his anger had reached its peak. Concubine was so frightened that her heart almost stopped. She panicked and asked for help from those present. The sixth prince is still a child. He was deceived by Bayu. He didn't know it. Please give him a chance and ask for mercy from the emperor. The censor of Yudu snorted angrily. Empress Defei, the emperor is right when he says that a loving mother often loses her son. The sixth prince is already married. How can he be treated as a child all the time? At the age of the eldest prince, it was time to lead the troops on an expedition, blowing the desert wind and sand, and spend the night in the wilderness. The sixth prince can sit back and relax in the capital. He should be proactive and think about his mistakes instead of indulging in fun and doing such vicious things. Prime Minister Sun and others all nodded. Although they are ministers and cannot offend the prince, if this scum is not suppressed and he is allowed to sit on the throne in the future, Qi will be destroyed. Concubine knew she was in the wrong, so she just cried bitterly, feeling so pitiful. Then she turned her eyes to the old lady. Auntie Huang, the sixth prince already knows that he made a mistake. Please give him a chance. He will change it. He will definitely do it. Changed. As she said that, she turned her gaze to Jiangning. Uncle Guang'en, we are all mothers. You must understand how much I love my son, right? Please help the sixth prince to beg for mercy. I promise he will definitely not do it again, and he will definitely behave in the future. Ah! Before she could finish speaking, Concubine was frightened by the screams of the sixth prince. When she looked back, she saw that the dragon-controlling sword in the emperor's hand was dripping with blood, and the left arm of the sixth prince fell not far away. She stared at the scene in front of her blankly, swayed, and fell down. The angry emperor looked coldly at the sixth prince lying on the ground, crouching, struggling and screaming, and his voice was surprisingly calm. It is my decree that the sixth prince has no virtue and is not worthy to be a descendant of the royal family. From now on, he will be demoted to a commoner and imprisoned in Liangzhou. He will not be allowed to set foot in Liangzhou for the rest of his life. Take a step into the capital. Concubine was not strict in educating her children. She allowed the Bai family to use their power to bully others. She deceived the superiors and deceived the subordinates. She was demoted to Agree and imprisoned in Xi'an Temple. The Bai family secretly hid forbidden drugs, seduced the prince, and committed many evil deeds. Bai Zhendong and Bai Yakai were executed after questioning, and all the family property was confiscated. The men were exiled to the northwest, and the women were expelled from the capital. Let the Dong family be imprisoned first. Where is the censor of Zhuaju? Huang Zhenyang quickly stood up and said, I'm here. The emperor ordered in a cold voice, take people to Yun's mansion immediately. The emperor issued imperial edicts one after another without giving others a chance to react. After all the civil and military officials had retired, the emperor walked up to Mrs. Shen with a tired look on his face and said, Auntie Huang, it's because I failed to teach my son well, so you have been wronged. Mrs. Shen was horrified. Your Majesty, you must not think like this. I never thought that what I said that day would cause such a big mess. I had known it would be like this. The emperor waved his hand and said, the emperor's aunt didn't say anything was wrong. He also remembered what Mrs. Shen said that time, which was nothing more than praising the eldest prince for being brave and good at fighting, the second prince for being kind and filial, the fifth prince for being knowledgeable and talented, and the eighth prince being lively and lovely. They were extremely ordinary words. It was because Concubine was petty and misinterpreted old Mrs. Shen's meaning. However, he has finally seen his son clearly today. Even if there is no poisonous wine in Duke Ding, he cannot forgive him lightly. The royal family can produce dandies and raise trash, but no one is allowed to take banned drugs. The sixth prince committed suicide on his own, just like everyone else. Mrs. Shen's hanging heart finally fell to the ground. Mr. Rui was very impatient when he saw that she was hesitant to speak. Okay, you can go back to recuperate. From now on, it is more serious to stay away from the affairs of these juniors and try to take good care of yourself and live a few more years. The words were rough and the reasoning was not rough. Ms. Shen was not angry either, she bowed respectfully and left. Jiang Ning looked at it and wondered whether he should also resign. At this moment, the emperor stopped her. Jiang Ning was a little confused and a little nervous, thinking secretly, the emperor wouldn't want to settle accounts with the queen, right? The emperor asked Dekang to put away the dragon-controlling sword, sit down slowly, rubbed his brows tiredly, and weakly ordered, later, someone will send 2 jars of wine to the palace, and the last time Yang Datu was in Dingguo Gong I will also send a copy of the snacks made by the palace to the palace. King Xiaoao trembled and said to please, brother, if you want to eat, just let me go. The emperor glared at him angrily, I haven't finished speaking yet. I also want Yang Datu to enter the palace. I want him to cook some dishes at the New Year's Eve palace banquet. Wang Xiaoao laughed twice and shrank his neck. Jiang Ning saluted respectfully, I will go back and make arrangements right now. After Jiang Ning left, the emperor also kicked out King Xiaoao, with a bit of confusion and sadness in his eyes. Uncle Emperor, do you think I did something wrong? Old Prince Rui smacked his lips without changing his expression and said, the emperor is the king of a country. Every decision is made after careful consideration. Why is there anything wrong? The old man knows that you are unhappy because of the 6th prince. But the old man still has to say something more. It is said that the old man saw old age at the age of 3. The old man didn't like the 6th child back then. Look, he didn't surprise the old man even when he grew up. Look at his arrogance, he doesn't have the bearing of a prince at all. He is worse than that kid Xiao Konggyun. I don't know how concubine raised her son. However, the 9 sons born to a dragon are all different, and you can't just point out that every child will be successful, right? Look at the boss, the 2nd, the 5th and the 8th. Do you feel more comfortable? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 280. Chapter 280 Yang Datu enters the palace. The emperor was indeed comforted, and his face improved visibly, but he was still a little awkward. I have been to Ping'an County, Kuzhu Prefecture before, and met several children of Guang and Bo's family. They are all down to earth, filial, smart, and cute, which is rare. What's more, there is no impetuousness in suddenly becoming rich. Looking at Lao Lu again, I can't figure it out no matter how much I think about it. I give him the best. The Bai family is an imperial merchant. He can be said to be the richest among all the brothers. This is not enough. I am really heartbroken. Old Prince Rui was stunned for a moment, blinked vigorously, and said, it is said that children of poor people become masters early. The situation of the Yang family is different. What should I do if the child does not mature early? Besides, Uncle Guang'an is indeed amazing. A woman with a very big heart. Even if everyone is as good as a man, it's no surprise that the children she raises are outstanding. The emperor was deep in thought, and after a while he said quietly, Uncle, do you think it is feasible for me to ask Guang and Bo to come into the palace from time to talk to the concubines about parenting methods? Poof, Prince Rui squirted all the tea in his mouth, and he was very shocked, Your Majesty. Even if you are anxious, you can't mess around. Guang and Bo was not of high origin. Although he discovered that taro and white potato have benefited all people, but among those in the eyes of a noble girl, her status is still low. Do you want her to talk about parenting with the women in the harem to make her resentful? In other words, the emperor stopped thinking after being scolded by Mr. Rui. Jiang Ning's heart was still beating wildly until he walked out of the palace gate and got into the carriage. As soon as the carriage walked out for a while, he met the carriage of Duke Dingguo parked on the roadside. The coachman asked, Zhang Ning lifted the curtain and saw the servants of Duke Dingguo waiting beside him. "Uncle," the old lady, "please come over and have a talk." Zhang Ning nodded slightly and asked the driver to drive the carriage over. At this time, Mrs. Shen also opened the curtain of the car, and the two people who were separated by a generation actually felt a kind of sympathy for each other after a disaster. Mrs. Shen's attitude was very gentle, but also a bit warm and uneasy. "Uncle, I invited you here to ask if the emperor is still angry after I leave." Zhang Ning looked as if he was expecting it, and nodded slightly to Mrs. Shen. "Don't worry, Mrs. Shen. The emperor is fine. He just left his ministers here to explain some things. Some things will be over as soon as they are over. There is no need to worry about it." Mrs. Shen's eyes changed when she looked at Zhang Ning. She nodded heavily and said with a smile, "This will make me feel at ease. I heard that even the emperor likes Baiwolo's wine. I will ask the duke to buy a few jars later. Come back and try it." Zhang Ning covered her mouth and chuckled, "That's a coincidence. The emperor also wants wine. You and the emperor are indeed a family." Old Mrs. Shen liked to hear these words, so she immediately smiled and narrowed her eyes. "Uncle, I have been able to come to Dingguo's mansion often. I welcome you." "Thank you, old lady, I will definitely go when I have time." Zhang Ning waited for the carriage from Duke Dingguo's mansion to leave before letting the driver rush back to Beiwei Tower. At this time, Baiwolo was still discussing the farce on the street and the matter of the Bai family being ransacked. Lu Ye saw her coming back and hurriedly helped her to the backyard. "Auntie, why was the Bai family raided? Isn't that an imperial merchant?" She was present at the farce on the street today. She only thought that there was an scandal in the Bai family, but she never expected that something else would happen. Although she was happy that the Bai family was defeated, it was shocking enough for a behemoth to fall like this. Zhang Ning held on until Liu Yu closed the door and threw himself directly on the chair. Lu Ye was startled and quickly helped the man up and poured hot water for Zhang Ning. Zhang Ning's hand holding the teacup was shaking. Lu Ye's heart was pounding when she saw it, and she quickly took the teacup and fed it to her mouth. After a while, Zhang Ning came to his senses, closed his eyes and ordered, "Go and call Datu over, I have something to explain." Yang Datu is teaching a few servants how to cook in the back kitchen. He is sweating profusely in the winter, and there is a smell of sweat when he comes in. Zhang Ning frowned subconsciously and straightened his body seriously. "The emperor asked you to enter the palace, saying that he wanted to discuss the New Year's Eve dinner. You will take a shower and change into clean clothes in a while." Many things happened in the palace today. The emperor personally chopped off the sixth prince's head. He was demoted to a commoner and imprisoned, the concubine was deposed, the Bai family was confiscated, and the Dong family was also raided. Yang Datu and his wife were stunned when they heard this, and they couldn't calm down for a long time. Yang Datu's legs were trembling. "Auntie, can I wait until the emperor is in a better mood before entering the palace?" Zhang Ning shook his head regretfully. "I don't want you to enter the palace to meet the saint at this time, but the emperor ordered your name. It is hard to disobey the emperor's order, son. Remember, be careful with your words and deeds, speak less and read less. Pretending to be confused, understand. Our family's future depends entirely on you." Yang Datu didn't know how he walked out of the wing, and how he took a shower. When he came to his senses, he was already wearing a brand new satin dress and sitting in the carriage. The clothes were very nice, Ye washed him very clean, and the carriage was very comfortable. Everything was fine, but he always felt like something was wrong. When the carriage arrived at the palace gate, he looked at the towering tower and was dumbfounded, not knowing what to do next. It was the guards who took the lead in questioning him before he stammered and left the house. He still felt like he was dreaming until the guards led him into the palace. In a daze, he just knelt in front of the emperor. The emperor was originally in a very depressed mood, but as soon as the naive Yang Datu came in, he immediately became happy and asked Dekang to show him his seat. Yang Data didn't understand these rules either. The emperor asked him to sit down and he sat down firmly. Dekang was a little anxious. The emperor couldn't help but laugh. Yang Data's clear eyes were full of confusion, and he was also a little cautious and at a loss. The emperor was in an inexplicably good mood and said, "Yang Data, Uncle Guang'an told you why I wanted you to enter the palace." Yang Data nodded crazily, "Your Majesty, my mother-in-law has already told the common people that you let the common people enter the palace for the purpose of cooking for the palace banquet on New Year's Eve." The emperor nodded slightly and stood up, "Let's go. I'll take you to the imperial dining room." "Your Majesty," Dekang was confused and didn't know why. Yang Data stood up obediently and followed closely behind the emperor. The group of people arrived suddenly, catching the imperial chef in the imperial dining room off guard. What surprised the emperor even more was that he actually saw Princess Yongyang and the 8th Prince Xiao Kongjun here. "Yongyang, Lao Ba, what are you doing?" Princess Yongyang and the 8th Prince were startled, with flowers still hanging on their bodies. They shook their heads and backed away like children who had done something wrong. "My sons and ministers pay homage to their father." The emperor frowned and stepped forward, "I ask what you are doing." The two looked at each other, not knowing what to say. The imperial chef replied bravely, "Your Majesty, Princess Yongyang and the 8th Prince heard that the emperor was unhappy, so they came to the imperial kitchen to ask Wei Chen to learn how to cook the emperor's favorite dishes." What's not good to say, the emperor's frown relaxed and his mood became much better.